Not all narcissists want crowds. Some only want victims. Some narcissists don't seek thrones. They seek victims. Charming, ruthless, relentless, these predators controlled life and death for their own gain. But narcissism doesn't always kill bodies. Sometimes it kills meaning. Meet the charming Ted Bundy, 1946 to 1989. Theodore Robert Ted Bundy was born on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont, into a secretive and unstable family environment that contributed to a fragile sense of identity. Outwardly, he appeared successful, intelligent, articulate, politically engaged, but beneath the surface lay profound psychological disturbance. Bundy's crimes began in the early 1970s and spanned multiple U.S. states. His ability to appear charming and trustworthy enabled him to lure victims before abducting, assaulting, and murdering them. His violence was calculated, methodical, and increasingly sadistic. Bundy's narcissistic self-image, reinforced by intelligence and social skill, fueled a belief in his own invincibility. Control, not impulse, defined his crimes. Empathy was absent, and brutality escalated as domination became the primary objective. Bundy's charm made him invisible to suspicion until one mistake exposed him. Arrested in 1975, Bundy escaped custody twice, reinforcing his delusion of superiority and amplifying media fascination. These episodes fed his ego while obscuring the severity of his crimes. Ultimately convicted in Florida, Bundy represented himself at trial, performing confidence even as evidence mounted. He received multiple death sentences for murder and rape, including the killing of a 12-year-old girl. On death row, Bundy confessed to 30 murders, though the true number remains unknown. He was executed in Florida's electric chair on January 24, 1989. His life ended not in myth or notoriety, but in legal repudiation. Bundy's arc demonstrates how narcissistic entitlement and self-deception can manifest in extreme, calculated violence, a chilling example of charm weaponized against humanity. Welcome controversial Ma Barker, 1873 to 1935. Kate Barker, better known as Ma Barker, became one of the most controversial figures of America's Depression-era criminal underworld. Born Arizona Donnie Clark on October 8, 1873, in Ash Grove, Missouri, she was raised in a conservative, hardworking family before later acquiring a reputation that blurred the line between myth and reality. Although many later accounts, particularly those promoted by the FBI under J. Edgar Hoover, portrayed Ma Barker as the criminal mastermind behind the Barker Karpis gang, modern historical scholarship suggests this image was exaggerated for sensational effect. There is no definitive evidence that she personally planned robberies or kidnappings, nor that she was ever formally charged with criminal activity. Despite this, Barker's influence on her son's criminal trajectories was undeniable. She married George Barker in 1892 and had 4 sons: Herman, Lloyd, Arthur, and Fred. As the boys grew up amid limited supervision and economic hardship, they drifted into petty crime. Barker frequently intervened on their behalf in minor legal matters, defending and supporting them in ways that enabled deeper entanglement with criminal networks. By the early 1930s, the Barker brothers, alongside criminal associate Alvin Karpis, formed the notorious Barker Karpis gang, one of the most wanted groups in the Midwest. Their crimes included bank robberies, kidnappings, and murder, earning them public enemy status. Barker was depicted in the press as a ruthless matriarch exerting authority over her son's actions, despite evidence that her role was more maternal and symbolic than operational. Ma Barker ruled crime with an iron fist, controlling men who killed for her. The law never caught the full picture. Public perception ultimately cast her as the brains behind the organization, largely due to Hoover's insistence that she was the most vicious, dangerous, and resourceful criminal brain of the last decade. Many historians now view this characterization as deliberate myth-making, used to justify the circumstances of her violent death. That end came on January 16, 1935, when federal agents surrounded a Florida hideout occupied by Barker and her son Fred after Arthur's arrest in Chicago revealed its location. After calls to surrender went unanswered, a fierce shootout erupted. When the gunfire ceased, both Barker and Fred were found dead. She died in a blaze of violence, not as the culmination of her own criminal designs, but as the tragic terminus of a life bound to crime's destructive momentum. Her sons met similarly grim ends. Herman committed suicide to avoid capture. Arthur died during prison escape attempts. Fred fell in the Florida shootout, and Lloyd was later killed by his wife. Ma Barker's legacy is less one of strategic criminal leadership than a cautionary portrait of how loyalty to destructive paths can render even a mother complicit in ruin. Meet the paranoid Vlad the Impaler, 1428 to 1477. Vlad III, Prince of Wallachia, ruled with a brutality that became inseparable from his identity. Raised in a violent political environment and traumatized by early captivity under the Ottoman Empire, Vlad developed a worldview grounded in paranoia and domination. His narcissism expressed itself through absolute control and the deliberate use of terror as authority. Impalement, his preferred method of execution, was not merely punitive, but explicitly theatrical. Enemies were displayed en masse, forming grotesque landscapes intended to project Vlad's power and moral righteousness. Contemporary accounts describe forests of corpses left standing as warnings. Vlad positioned himself as the sole arbiter of justice, a defining trait of malignant narcissism. While some defenders argue that his cruelty served political ends, the scale and ritualization of violence far exceeded strategic necessity. Vlad demanded obedience not only in action, but in belief. Dissent was not corrected, it was annihilated. Vlad the Impaler's cruelty was legendary, but terror was also a tool to consolidate power. Eventually, political alliances shifted. Vlad was betrayed, assassinated, and decapitated. His severed head was reportedly sent to Constantinople as proof of death. He died violently, as he had ruled, leaving behind no enduring state or stability, only fear and legend. Narcissistic terror sustained his authority briefly. It ensured his collapse. These predators prove narcissism doesn't need a throne. It can be lethal in any form. Next, we explore those who built myth and legend.